Thank you for joining us on this short webinar to answer your questions on live blood analysis and the training course. And I do apologise for the delay. I'm Elizabeth, the organiser at Live Blood Online, and Dr. Rocker, your tutor, is also here to answer your questions. I'm just making sure that you have the correct screen. Just bear with me for a second. There we go. Thank you for sending your questions in. We'll be answering your questions live here on the webinar. And to get your questions answered, could you please post your questions in the box in the panel on your screen? You should see a panel there on your screen. There's a box for questions. And if you can put your questions in that box there, we'll endeavour to answer them. I'll give you some time to do that. If you could just put a yes in there if you've found it okay. And meanwhile, we'll start to answer some of your questions. If you need some information about the training course, including the course outline, course dates, price, how to enroll, etc., and information about the actual training course, you'll find that on the website, which is www.livebloodonline.com. You should find that on the screen now. So let's get started with some of your questions. I see there's quite a lot of questions here now, but we also have had some sent in. So let's get started, and I'll introduce you to Dr. Ocker. Dr. Ocker, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Elizabeth, and hello, everyone.
Hi, Dr. Ocker. Thank you for joining us. So let's get started on some of the questions. First of all, we've got quite a few here in the questions box. These are some of the questions that have been sent in. Does live blood analysis require the drawing of blood?
Well, no, it does not. Not in terms of drawing blood from a vein with a syringe. A drop of blood rather is collected from a finger prick. So the procedure to collect the drop of blood is very similar to the finger pricks that diabetics have to do to monitor their blood sugar.
Okay, thank you. And where is the best place to get a microscope, and how much do they cost?
Well, we supply the best microscopes for live and dry blood analysis. Now, this is actually something that's quite important to discuss because there are many microscopes out there on the market that claim to be dark field microscopes, but they won't actually be suitable for live blood analysis. Now, remember that dark field is not really exclusive to live blood analysis. It's a technique that's been used in microscopy for many years. However, the researchers that started working with blood analysis and analyzing blood in dark field found that there are a very specific set of requirements for microscope to be suitable to analyze live blood properly in dark field. The most commercially available so-called dark field microscopes don't have the necessary specifications, so this is the potential pitfall for practitioners. Now, having studied live blood analysis and having worked with many different types of microscopes myself, I've researched this extensively and have ensured that the microscopes that we offer have the best specifications for live blood analysis. Now, there are many unique features on our systems that are not available on other microscopes. So we believe that any other system, there will be some sort of compromise in terms of quality. We actually have a separate webinar on this subject where we explain what you need to look for specifically in a live blood analysis microscope system. In terms of cost, the cost of the system varies depending on the type of combination of light source and camera you choose. Varies from just under $5,000 to just over $5,500. That's US dollars.
Thank you, Dr. Ocker. And where will they be able to find that separate webinar on that subject?
We do have that available. I think it's actually on the Live Blood online website. It should be on there under the microscopes tab.
Okay, thank you very much. And do I need to buy a microscope to take the training course?
Well, it isn't necessary to have a microscope at the start of the course. It's possible to go through the lessons and learn all the theory before going on to the practical aspects where microscopes will be needed. Now, many of our attendees do it this way, but it is important to mention that we only issue a certificate to an attendee after receiving their case studies. To complete your 2 case studies, you would of course need access to a microscope.
Okay, thank you. So the questions box is getting a little bit clogged up, so I'm just going to move on to the questions sent in by the attendees, if that's okay. Razor is saying, yeah. Hello, my question is, do you offer any specific diet plan after live blood analysis to clients to resolve their health issues? If yes, what diet system would you, for example, recommend? For example, would it be the blood type diet?
Yeah, there are a number of diets that we utilize. So depending on what specific issues were identified during a live blood analysis session, you might need to look at using an anti-candida diet, for example. If candida was identified as the main issue, we might look at a detoxification diet. If toxicity is the main issue, and then there are some general guidelines that apply to most of the other anomalies in the case, and also as an ongoing maintenance type protocol, we have specific dietary recommendations just to improve the overall state of the terrain. So these are general foods to avoid and foods to incorporate into the diet that have been shown to actually be beneficial for the general state of the terrain and the blood in general. So in long term, that tends to keep health at an optimal level, and we tend to see improvements continuing in the blood when people are on this type of maintenance diet. But there are a number of diets included in the course, and they're available to the attendees that enroll for the course as well.
So they're on the training site and they're in the manual as well, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're downloadable and they can be printed, and you can change them and adjust them as you like as well.
And how about supplementation? Is there a specific brand that you recommend, and which ones are they?
Well, with working with live blood analysis in practice over the years, we've developed formulations that we found have just been the best type of combinations to improve what we're seeing in the blood. So if we see, for example, liver stress indicators, there's a specific combination of herbs that we use to support and detox the liver. Now those are available as products that we have under our brand, Neogenesis Health. But if you don't have access to them in your country, we do have the formulations available as well. So if you're able to source your own herbs, you're able to find similar combinations that's available to you in your local area. We do also have recommendations on specific supplements, and also in terms of what you look for in a specific supplement, so the type of form of active ingredient and the strength of those individual active ingredients that you should be looking for as well. So you may be able to find it under a specific brand that's available to you locally.
Lovely, thank you. And Surette says, I've not started doing layered dry blood analysis yet. I'm still trying to understand why 8 dots of blood. Is that because there are 8 layers to investigate? Should there be only 5 layers to investigate, would we then take only 5 drops of blood? And she says, by the way, sorry, I am blonde.
Yeah, the number of drops that we take, or the layers that we take with the dry blood test, really is just something that's developed over time. They've just found that 8 is sort of the optimal number of drops, and I've experimented with this as well, and I've seen it in practice. You know, the 8th or the 7th layer would often you'd often be able to pick up something there that won't specifically show in any of the other layers. So it is important to try and get 8 layers. And you know, in some cases where you perhaps didn't take enough blood to start with, you might not get to 8 individual layers, but that's something that one would just need to practice. But 8 really is the most important, or is the sort of ideal number there. So that's what we aim for, and that's something that we do discuss in detail in the course. There are 8 specific layers of dry blood that we look at, and that's taken during the sampling procedure to produce those 8 individual layers from one specific drop of blood, and each of those layers is then analyzed, and there's a range of anomalies that can be found on each of them. We can find a combination of anomalies on as well. So
Hello, Dr. Rocker? Hello?
yes.
Yeah, we seem to have lost you there. Well, thank you very much for that. And please put your questions in the box, and we'll continue with some of the questions that have been sent in. Do I need a medical background to practice live blood analysis?
Well, no. Live blood analysis is not a medical test, so we don't need, we don't detect any medical conditions with live blood analysis. So there's no need for medical background for you to actually use live blood analysis. It's a technique that actually fits into the scope of natural medicine or nutrition, or as it is often referred to, complementary and alternative medicine. The imbalances that we detect with live blood analysis really fits squarely into the realm of complementary medicine. So any person practicing any form of natural health or working in the field of nutrition will benefit from using live blood analysis on their clients.
Thank you. Is there any research to back a live blood analysis up? Research or studies?
Well, yes, there have actually been, yeah, absolutely. There actually have been a number of studies, now often called a pseudoscience, and it's criticized in that there's no research behind it, that it's some kind of gimmick. However, much of what we see in live blood samples have been researched and proven in conventional hematology. And there are also other anomalies in live and dry blood that were identified clinically by researchers working with live and dry blood analysis many years ago. Now, many of these relate to conditions that can't actually be tested for with conventional investigations. But we always see the anomalies responding to the recommended interventions in practice. Now, there have been a number of small studies that have shown a very strong correlation between the findings in live blood analysis and conventional blood tests. Now, because live blood analysis is much more sensitive than conventional blood tests, this is not something that can be done for all of the live blood analysis anomalies. But in some of these studies, they looked, for example, at anomalies that can be easily detected in conventional blood tests. So, for example, anemia indicators in patients with iron deficiency anemia, liver indicators in patients with liver disease and so on. Now, live blood analysis was shown to be very accurate in these cases. Now, there was also another study done fairly recently that showed a very strong correlation between specific live blood analysis indicators and metabolic syndrome. Now, these studies are not to the scale that are required by conventional medicine, but they do show that what we're seeing in the blood is reliable and it stands up to science testing.
Okay, thank you. And somebody else is asking, isn't it better to study hands-on?
Well, I think, from my experience with working with live blood analysis and training practitioners, I provide the best format to study live blood analysis. What you would learn from hands-on training is actually covered in detail in the course during the lessons and also then in the form of videos. Now we go through the microscope settings and how to take blood samples correctly in detail in those videos. And since everything is recorded, you can always go back and review it as many times as you like. Now this is not the case in hands-on training, where we actually found that people tend to forget much of what they learned after 2 or 3 days, after a 2 or 3 day hands-on course, and then they have nowhere to go afterwards to review that information.
Thank you, which brings me on to the next question. Do you provide backup?
Well, yes, we do. We provide email support for all our course attendees and full after-sales support with a 2-year warranty on the microscopes. We also have a private Facebook page where attendees can post questions, interact, and continue learning.
Thank you. And are you regulated?
Well, yes, we are. We are CMA approved. That's the Complementary Medical Association in the UK.
Thank you. I've got a question from somebody in Australia. What about the time difference?
Well, we do have attendees from all over the world in different time zones. This is where the recordings are very useful. Attendees in different time zones can then view the recordings later and post their questions to the private Facebook page. The fact that the lessons are recorded is also very useful for giving practitioners the ability to then go over and review the lessons as many times as they like. And also if you've had to miss a lesson for any specific reason, we believe by providing the recordings, we offer a huge advantage in our training course.
Thank you. And a question we get asked often, is live blood analysis legal?
Well, yes, it is. There are some states in the US where the Medical Council has tried to prevent the practice of live blood analysis, but the technique is actually not regulated, and there are many practitioners in those states that are using live blood analysis. Now, in those cases, many of them don't use the term live blood analysis. They say that they're actually using it as an educational tool to educate their clients on nutrition, diet and lifestyle. So, it's a case of semantics there. The only real risk is when practitioners make claims about being able to diagnose and treat medical conditions, which is not what live blood analysis should actually be used for. Now, we do cover the course to ensure that attendees can use the technique safely without putting themselves or their clients at risk.
Thank you. Did you say there that we cover the legal aspects in detail during the course? Is that right?
Absolutely, yes, we do.
Thank you. And what's the difference between medical blood test and live blood test?
Well, there are quite a few very important differences. Medical blood tests, first and foremost, are actually used to diagnose medical conditions, whereas live blood analysis is used more in prevention. It's a much more valuable test for people that are proactive about their health and want to know what to do to prevent disease rather than just being able to diagnose a disease once it's already developed. So just in terms of the tests themselves, with conventional blood tests, they tend to use venous blood that's drawn from a vein, placed into a tube, which is then transported to a lab, and the blood is only analyzed hours later, usually after it's been stained, which effectively kills all the cells. And what they're really looking for there are major indicators for disease. They're not specifically looking at the more subtle imbalances and anomalies that we look for in live blood samples. Live blood samples, on the other hand, we take the blood from the capillaries, from a pinprick on the finger, and the blood is then viewed immediately under a very high-powered microscope, high magnification, in front of the client. Usually they're able to see their own blood samples, or their own blood cells, and the results is then discussed with the client as well. So it's more of an interactive type of test, which is a very different dynamic from just having blood drawn and seeing some numbers on a report maybe a few days later. But in terms of what we're able to detect with live blood analysis, there's a wide range of anomalies that we really can't test for with conventional medicine. So it's extremely valuable for people that have had other blood tests done and conventional medical investigations, have been told that nothing's wrong, but they know that something is going on and they're not feeling well. We often find in those cases exactly what's going on by looking at their live blood samples.
Which leads on nicely to the next question, which is, what does live blood analysis show?
Well, yes, as I mentioned, it's not used for medical diagnosis. We are able to detect, we're really looking at detecting underlying imbalances more at the cellular level. Now, these are imbalances that relate to the state of the terrain or the balance of the internal environment in the body, so the balance between things like toxicity and nutrition, hydration, dehydration, the pH, various deficiencies, and stress on various organ systems. We're able to see if there's, for example, how the functioning of the digestive system is, indicators for candida and intestinal dysbiosis. We're able to see inflammatory markers in specific areas in the system as well. And by looking at everything that we're detecting in the blood, in the live and dry blood sample, we're then able to choose the best course of treatment for a client. And then also when we put them on that treatment, by looking at the changes taking place in the blood, we're then able to monitor the efficacy of a specific given treatment by looking at the changes taking place. And in doing this also, many of the anomalies that we detect in the blood are often self-inflicted. So these are anomalies that originate from an unbalanced diet and an unhealthy lifestyle and diet. So by identifying these in the blood, we're able to demonstrate to our clients the negative effects of an unhealthy diet and lifestyle, and motivate them to actually make a positive change there. And it does, the ability to show your clients, visual proof of what you're seeing, and the imbalances that's affecting their health, does create a very interactive dynamic in your practice, very different from most of the other types of tests and investigations that are out there.
Thank you. And can live blood analysis be done on animals?
Well, yes, it can. The basic principles and indicators in the blood would be the same. The only challenge really is the sampling procedure. So that's what would need to be adapted then to the type of animal being tested. Now we do have some practitioners who have been working with animals and have tested, for example, horses, and have found it to be very valuable.
Thank you. Now, I think that the next question is a bit of a mistake. It says, do I need a telescope to follow the course?
No, you won't need a telescope, but at some point you would definitely need a microscope, but not a telescope, no.
Right. And from the same questioner, what kind of illness will we be able to detect from the blood?
Well, yeah, it's important to just reiterate, we don't use live blood analysis to diagnose specific illnesses or medical conditions. You'll be able to uncover the underlying imbalances in the body's internal environment that have actually facilitated the development of disease. Now, this is actually really powerful and very useful, and one of the main benefits of live blood analysis is that we're able to uncover these underlying imbalances that actually play a major role in the development of disease. And by addressing those imbalances that we identified, the underlying cause of the disease is then treated. So we tend to see results then in our clients because of that.
Thank you. And I'm not sure I understand the next question properly. Will having protocol to know what to do when we find anomaly? I suppose that means that when we find the anomaly, will we also be given the protocol to apply?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. The being able to identify a specific anomaly is really only half of the way there. So we do include in detail under each anomaly in the manual specific protocols on what to do, in terms of interventions. So specific changes in diet and lifestyle, specific herbal and nutritional naturopathic protocols that need to be used to address those anomalies.
Okay, and from the same person, how accurate is the blood analysis?
Well, live blood analysis is really very accurate when it's used correctly. We see it constantly in practice. The various anomalies and interpretations have been verified by hundreds of practitioners using live blood analysis in the practices. Now, if the results were not accurate and if it wasn't reliable, it simply won't work. Patients and practitioners alike would not benefit from it, and it actually would have whittled away many years ago. Instead, we have a growing base of practitioners who use it in their practice. And many of these practitioners are highly qualified and work in the field of integrative medicine.
And from the same person, the last question, will I be able to offer blood cell analysis after the training?
Yes, absolutely. We issue a certificate, as I mentioned earlier, it's CMA approved. Now, although live blood analysis is not regulated, it is important to be able to prove that you've received formal training. It's important for your clients to see that as well, so the certificate is very important. Most attendees who started working with the correct microscope from early on in the course are able to actually start offering live blood analysis then in the practices at the end of the course.
Great. And the last question, unless you have any more, put them in the box, please, is what's the difference between live blood analysis and other tests used by natural health practitioners, such as the quantum analyzers and biofeedback devices?
Well, yes, I've worked with practitioners that use these devices as well, and they are valuable in specific cases. I've had clients that have benefited greatly from the results that were obtained from a quantum analyzer and other biofeedback type of devices. However, the scope is quite small compared to live blood analysis. There's a lot more that we're able to do with live blood analysis, and it gives us a lot more detail, and it also highlights the most important areas to focus on. So the main priorities of the individual being tested is identified with live blood analysis. It's very easy to go from the results from the analysis to then go to choosing the correct type of protocol for your clients, and it's not always the case with those other devices. Also, the technology behind these devices, it's very difficult to explain this and the principle behind these devices to your clients, and this often tends to make them become a bit skeptical of these devices as well, which is not the case with live blood analysis. You know, they can understand that they're looking at their blood. Nothing's been done to the blood. We're simply looking at what it looks like under a microscope. It's fairly simple to understand. And also what I've seen with these other devices, often that the results vary greatly from one day to the next in the same client, which has also made me a little skeptical of how accurate and reliable some of these devices are. But as I said, you know, some people have benefited greatly from them, even in terms of the scope and what you're able to achieve with live blood analysis. I believe that you definitely will be able to help more people with live blood analysis than with any other device used in a natural health practice.
Okay, thank you. Well, that seems to be the end of the questions, unless if you have any more questions, please put them in the box. And well, thank you for joining us, and we hope it's been of help, and I hope that we've managed to answer some of your questions. If you do have any further questions, please send them in to us at info@livebloodonline.com, and we'll be able to answer them for you. The next training course will begin 1 week from today, Tuesday, September the 18th. So if you want to enroll, please drop us an email or go to the website at livebloodonline.com, and you can actually sign up there as well. So thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you on a training course in the future. So anything to add to that, Dr. Ocker?
Well, only if you're thinking of looking into live blood analysis, I would definitely recommend that you do. It's you know, just for myself in my practice, I used other types of investigations and tests to try to work out what to do with my clients. And the one thing that really made a huge difference for me is actually using live blood analysis. It's for me an absolutely indispensable tool, and it makes a huge difference in terms of what you're able to do in your practice for your clients, and also in terms of getting clients to stay motivated. So in terms of compliance, it's extremely valuable. So yeah.
Marvellous, thank you. Well, again, thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Ocker. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.